Hi all. Given the state of the world, it won't be surprising when I say that there's one concept that's been a bit more on my mind in the past, let's say 3 years, and that is dehumanization. Why dehumanization? Well, when we look at how our media is treating certain regions and how our governments are supporting certain regimes, it's impossible not to see it, and it's impossible not to wonder how we got here. But very recently I was thinking, I think there's a way to expand the concept, unfortunately, a little bit more, and not only to expand it, but to use it as like a very strong language to maybe, hopefully push ourselves into some meaningful, hard but meaningful questions and then meaningful discoveries. And so what I was thinking about dehumanization is that, yes, we have the very obvious, the very traditional one, and that is the dehumanization of different groups, right? When we use dehumanizing language, good old racism, Islamophobia, misogyny, sometimes a bundle of all of them. And hopefully that's the one that you denounce, you speak against it, you don't use dehumanizing language, and so on. But then I was thinking, my goodness, how much of that we can see sometimes on a personal level in others, in an internalized way, and, the scary thing in ourselves. I'll give you 2 examples. One, I was talking to this man recently, and the image I had of him was actually very different from what I got when we had a one-on-one conversation. It was very lovely. And obviously, when you're getting to know someone, it's the whole universe in front of you. So yes, you're seeing different sides, like more sides. It's not just a 2-dimensional, image of someone. So yes, the image should be different. But it was also sad to assume, yes, that the previous image is, it's what a kind of masculinity has placed this person in. And we know, we've heard these beautiful, beautiful, painful expressions, those questions of, patriarchy or like a different system of oppression. What kind of parts of ourselves do they ask or do they demand that we cut out? What are the parts of our humanity that we cannot show? And historically, we know what it has been for boys. We know what sides boys and men, think that they're not allowed to show. And then suddenly there's this like image, and there's this person. I'm like, where's your silliness? Where's your ability to, I don't know, make fun of yourself? And like all these, like, I don't know, for me, these are important, like cool, quirky, cute things that make someone actually, for me, like more human in a way. Anyway, so just that comparison of like the image that someone tries or wants and successfully maybe upkeeps. And then like, okay, so when you have a safer space, then I'm so glad that you're allowing other parts of yourself to show. And that's what I want to also do with people I feel safe with. But just maybe sometimes the contrast of, what I allow myself to show in public versus then, once I have that safe space, what it is I'm cutting off, how much of it, and when and with whom I feel like, okay, now I can release it. So we've heard of these concepts, we've heard of these frameworks and these outcomes really of oppressive systems. And when we internalize that oppression, what it looks like, nothing new. And this is exactly what that internalized dehumanization is. When we cut, when we don't allow ourselves to show these parts that are only human, right? We dehumanize ourselves. And you don't have to take it to some cynical extreme to say, okay, so I'm allowed to be like an asshole. I'm allowed to be always mean because that is human. That's not what I'm talking about. But what I do want to talk about, and I will put it in a formal question, and it's very simple. It's, where am I? Where am I dehumanizing myself? It's easy sometimes to see that in others, but when it comes to myself, I'm like, I am definitely shrinking in many situations. I am definitely not expressing myself fully. I'm not expressing my needs. I'm doing so well in some other areas. Like, I can be so outspoken. I'm not going to compromise on this and that. And like, great. Like, yes. But then in some other areas, I'm like, wow, I am really not being myself. I am really not allowing my full self to shine or, hey, to be angry. There's so many smaller and bigger ways that are so difficult to notice, that once I had that thought, once I had that question, it kind of stuck with me. And I thought I would share it with you. And I understand it's a very heavy language. It's a very heavy question because obviously it's not the same as to dehumanize a group of people or to accept what then can be done to a group that has been dehumanized, then horrors and crimes against all of our humanity can be accepted if you dehumanize a group of people, right? And I would never compare that kind of dehumanization and the horrible outcomes that it brings to a simple, I should learn how to set better boundaries, It's been difficult for me to set boundaries, and I am dehumanizing myself, and that is horrible. No, it's not horrible. It's not the same. It's not the same. It's not the same. I will admit that sometimes I need like a dramatic, very heavy language to kind of scare myself, to actually take a look and take that inventory and be honest with myself. If I don't use that language, sometimes I can just like slide on the surface, like I think I'm fine. But that question, where am I dehumanizing myself? It's a scary question to ask, because ideally you would say nowhere and I'm fine. But maybe that's not the case. And maybe when there is so much of that dehumanizing language and dehumanizing politics and dehumanizing policies, this level, like when you look at yourself, is also important to analyze. Because for me, for example, one thing, how all these levels of dehumanization, how they're connected, is that if I don't speak out against the dehumanization of others, if I don't find the inner resources, if I think that my voice doesn't matter, if all that small d dehumanization where I, shrink myself and I think some things aren't important and I don't do stuff and I'm just like, why? That small d dehumanization, if I'm dehumanizing myself, I am not contributing to fighting the dehumanization of others in the end. And for me, that is really scary. That is not how I want to show up in this world. Because in the end, I think if we want that life of courage and integrity and authenticity, I don't think we can get there if we secretly, unknowingly sometimes, dehumanize ourselves. And we surely cannot fight the wave of dehumanization that we're seeing in so many countries and so many levels if we cannot stand up with our backs straight. I think for me it's that simple. And who knows, maybe it resonates with you as well. So my wish for myself, I'm just gonna wish some things for myself right now. No, my wish for myself and for you is to see where that dehumanization, shrinking, cutting, where that shows up, and to understand that this is no small deal. And when we look around and see how the world is, the world doesn't need it either. So let's fight that dehumanization, not only in terms of policy and politics, which is so important, but let's not forget ourselves as well. So that is my message for you today, and I will see you soon.